Musk-Trump chat breaks records online. Prime Minister Narendra Modi raises concern over minorities' attack in Bangladesh. Thailand gets its youngest Prime Minister. Japanese PM Fumio Kishida's surprise announcement. And the world wakes up to monkeypox. Hello and welcome. You're watching Global Mirror. This is a show where we get you the major happenings from across the world. I'm Shreya Upadhyaya. On the show, as we told you, we get you the latest that's happening, starting with, of course, the Elon Musk-Donald Trump interaction on social media platform X and how it impacts the Republican campaign. We also talk about the continued attacks on minorities in Bangladesh. In an exclusive conversation with Mirror Now, the country's first Hindu former Chief Justice says Hindus are the first who are impacted whenever there's a major crisis in Bangladesh. Apart from this, the new Thailand Prime Minister, after the country's courts directed Prime Minister Srettha Thavisin to step down, Japan's Fumio Kishida plunging the country into political instability, and the latest health scare of monkeypox, with the World Health Organization declaring it as a health emergency once again. Let's start with the Musk-Trump chat. With record-breaking engagements online, the Elon Musk-Donald Trump conversation on social media platform X had the former US president talk about everything, from the assassination bid on him to his Democrat rival Kamala Harris. Calling US President Joe Biden as a low IQ person, Trump said wars wouldn't have started if he were the president. Here are some excerpts from that chat and how it impacts the Republican campaign ahead of the November elections.
Biden actually did something that was impossible.
3 hours, 998 million views and 4 million posts. The Elon Musk-Donald Trump conversation on social media platform X broke records, provoked reactions, and had the former US president be his quintessential self. After a 45-minute delay owing to what Musk said was a major DDoS cyber attack, the interaction on social media feature Spaces had Donald Trump cover ground on various issues dominating the US presidential elections this year. Hitting out at President Joe Biden and his Democrat rival Kamala Harris, Trump said that she has as low an IQ as the 81-year-old Biden, adding that Biden's exit from the race is nothing but a coup by his own party.
You know, Biden did something with Russia. I thought he was doing that to negotiate. But then Biden started saying such stupid things. For instance, he said that it can be a NATO country. And we go right up front and say that. And we did things and said things through this president with a low IQ, very low IQ. He had a low IQ 30 years ago, by the way, but now he might not even have a IQ at all. There's nothing on the board that goes this low.
On the assassination attempt on him, Donald Trump admitted that he believed in God even more now.
He did say there's a guy up there with a gun. The shooting started very quickly after that. I think it forced the shooter to go maybe quicker. He was supposed to be my sons, Don and Eric, they can't believe what happened. They said from 130 yards, a bad shot would hit that target almost every time. They said it's like in golf, sinking a 2-foot putt.
Yeah, it's not a tough shot.
It's not a long shot. One of the interesting things was that you didn't have anybody flee. You didn't have anybody stampede.
Sure.
Nobody. And there were some people behind me. They stood up and they're looking like, I tell you, you want to have them in a foxhole with you. I want to meet some of those people. But what happened is the firing is very soon. So what they think is that this guy ran to his site, which he had all planned out with a gun. He ran to the site and he started shooting fast, and maybe that's why he missed. He got me, but it could have been a much bigger problem.
Totally would have hit if you hadn't turned your head. It was a very near thing.
It was a miracle. If I hadn't turned my head,
Yeah,
I would not be talking to you right now. As much as I like you,
exactly.
I would not.
Yeah,
I would not be talking to you.
You'd be talking to me from another realm, perhaps.
Yeah, that's right. We'd be talking from a different place.
Biden actually did something that was impossible. Both
Donald
sides
Trump directly hit out at
Both
Middle
sides.
Eastern and African countries when Musk asked him about illegal immigration, a subject that has divided Americans and led to widespread protests across the United States in the past year, adding that these countries are opening their prisons into America and sending in criminals.
I believe it's over 20 million people came into our country, many coming from jails, from prisons, from mental institutions, or a bigger version of that is insane asylums, and many are terrorists. And I'll tell you what, they're coming not just from South America, they're coming from Africa, they're coming from all over the world, they're coming from Asia, they're coming from the Middle East, they're coming from countries that are stupidly and horribly bombing Israel October 7th. I hate it, but you have a lot of people that just shouldn't be. I think it's a much bigger number than you think. They're allowing, they're allowing people from their jails. And if you were one of these countries where they're coming from, you would have had all of them. But this is a mass scale because this is being done worldwide. But here's what's happening. Crime all over the world is down. And wait till you see the numbers that we have. This is migrant crime.
Even as the two wars continue to rattle the certainty and stability of the world, the Republican asserted that if he were the president, neither the October 7th Hamas attack nor the Ukrainian casualties would have happened.
He said things that were so stupid that war would have been, that war had zero chance of happening if I were there. Zero chance. He was saying everything the opposite. Everything the opposite. And it's so sad because many more people have been killed in Ukraine than you read about. You don't read about how bloody it is and how disastrous.
Sure.
Hey, look, just in the two armies, you lost 500,000 people. But if you think about it, Russia's gone, Russia defeated Germany with us, and they defeated Napoleon. They've been around a long time. They're a big fighting force.
Yeah, sure.
And it's very unfair. And Ukraine now doesn't have enough men. They're now using young men and very old men to fight. And we're in a very bad position. And I'm not going to blame exclusively, but I can tell you I could have stopped that. And a smart president could have stopped that. It wouldn't have happened.
Even though the conversation has garnered a lot of reactions, several observers say that it is Donald Trump's reducing popularity in opinion polls that forced him to engage online. The Musk-Trump interaction marks Donald Trump's return to X after nearly a year. Elon Musk has now invited the Kamala campaign on Spaces as well. Whether or not she joins a businessman who is publicly pro-Republican remains to be seen. All right, let's shift our focus now to Bangladesh. In fact, the head of Bangladesh's interim government, Muhammad Yunus, dialed Prime Minister Narendra Modi today and assured of security and safety of Hindus living in the country. This, remember, comes just a day after PM Modi raked the issue of violence against minorities, especially the Hindus in Bangladesh, during his Independence Day speech. Meanwhile, in Delhi, large-scale demonstrations were held to protest against the violence against the Hindus in the neighboring state. We at Mirror Now spoke exclusively with the former Chief Justice of Bangladesh and the first Hindu to occupy the position, Surendra Kumar Sinha. Listen in to that conversation. Even as the Bangladesh interim government vows legal action against those who attack minorities, particularly Hindus, concerns remain on the safety of those communities. In an exclusive conversation with Mirror Now, former Chief Justice of Bangladesh and the first Hindu to occupy the position, Surendra Kumar Sinha condemned the attacks and said, whenever there has been a political crisis in the country, the majority of the victims have been Hindus.
There are few incidents. I condemned it, everybody condemned it, government condemned it. The army chief condemned it. We could not recognize any sort of vandalism particularly against the minority community. Now, you will find whenever there is a crisis in the country, political crisis, so to say 1971, there also majority victims were Hindus. Actually, the rape and killing were perpetrated against the Hindu community. Now, after the fall of Ershad, H.M. Ershad, he was also an autocrat. There we are, the minority communities were attacked. And this time also, even the first Sheikh Hasina government's tenure, there are serious atrocities, vandalism.
Talking about the protests that took place, Justice Sinha said the students were part of a revolution. Casting doubts on the current interim government, he said winning a Nobel Prize by Muhammad Yunus isn't the same as running a country.
Professor Yunus is an internationally reputed person. He is known everywhere. He is an intellectual. He has written a lot of books and other things. But Nobel laureate and to run states, these are two different things. I think Professor Yunus should have approached in other angle. Basically, he committed some mistakes. The mistakes were the moment the revolution was successful on 5th, before Dr. Yunus, the student leaders, they committed fundamental mistake without forming any revolutionary government. On 5th, practically from 5th to 8th, 3 days, that is 8 at the night, the caretaker government was formed. But there is a gap of about 3 days. There was no government in the country. A country should not run without the government. The student leaders should have formed a government. Then they would have kept Professor Yunus the chief, but they would have formed a government. And it was the...
As the ousted Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina indicated at an American involvement in the crisis, Justice Sinha said that a superpower can be behind it.
I think it cannot be altogether ignored. Some superpower had some role. If they would have pulled the string behind the scene. Understand what? Pulling the string behind the scene. Because Sheikh Hasina was made for power. She made some remarks which should not have done in the manner about America and some other countries, superpowers. She did not care them. And if the Western countries had played a role behind the scene, I would not be surprised.
Amid concerns rising for India over its security and illegal refugee influx, Justice Sinha told Mirror Now that India can learn a lesson from its neighbours' situation.
India is a big country, is a superpower now. It was a regional power in 1971. And Nixon told Kissinger, before India's intervention, that when Kissinger was aggressive, he told, you will find in the Deep Blood, Archard Blood's book, that after all, Kissinger, you see that after all, India is a regional superpower. Okay, now India is really a superpower. And Bangladesh is its neighbor. And because of India, Sheikh Hasina manipulated elections in 2014, 2018, and 2024. And we digested all these elections, and international community also accepted it because of India. There is no doubt about it. So the student leaders, they are students, I don't think, but Professor Inus knows, BNP knows. I think I'm not a politician. And I, as a judge, I also believe that without cordial coexistence with India, it will be difficult for Bangladesh to survive. If India wants to create problem for Bangladesh, it can do, because India has an influence, not only locally, but internationally. So I think the Bangladesh should maintain a good relationship with India. But by the same time, this relationship should be reciprocal. Reciprocal. India also should show some gesture about cordiality. And this is one of the gesture for Indian leaders to think about. If we want to keep cordial relationship with Bangladesh, we should read the sentiments of the people of Bangladesh.
The rampant attacks on the Hindu minority in Bangladesh have sparked global concern. Yunus had earlier called the attacks on the minority communities heinous and urged the protesting students to protect all Hindu, Christian and Buddhist families from harm. From Bangladesh, let's talk about Thailand. Thailand now has its youngest prime minister in Paetongtarn Shinawatra. The 37-year-old daughter of Tycoon Thaksin Shinawatra is the third member of the family to lead the country. Paetongtarn succeeds Srettha Thavisin, who was removed from his post by a constitutional court ruling on charges of violating the constitution over a cabinet appointment. Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida shocked the world this week as he announced his decision to step down in September this year. The 67-year-old veteran has been struggling with reducing popularity in opinion polls, corruption charges, and a falling yen. His decision has not only plunged Japan into political uncertainty, but India watches closely as its close ally in countering China awaits a new leader. Many in Japan say this is a once-in-a-generation political crisis. Prime Minister Fumio Kishida's announcement of stepping down in September has sent an already unstable world into more uncertainty. Kishida said he will not seek a re-election as leader of the ruling Liberal Democratic Party, or the LDP, which he says needs a new start. The 67-year-old LDP veteran is expected to step down as the Prime Minister after the party elects a new leader in September this year. Kishida, who has been Japan's Prime Minister since 2021, has been struggling with falling support in the wake of a corruption scandal involving his party, rising cost of living, and a slumping Japanese currency of yen. His approval ratings had plummeted to 15.5% last month, the lowest for a prime minister in Japan in more than a decade.
内外の課題にしっかりと取り組んでいくこと、大変重要なことであると思いますが、だからこそ、政治の信頼、国民からの信頼、これが大事だと思っています。こうした国民の共感や信頼、これを再び取り戻すことによってこそ、こういった政策というのは前に進めることができると信じています。そういったことから、この自民党は変わらなければならない、そして自民党が変わったということを示す第一歩が、私自身が 総裁選挙に出馬しない、身を引くことであると判断して、今回の決断に至った。
As popularity went south, many in Kishida's party have doubted whether he would be able to lead the LDP to victory in the upcoming general election in 2025. The Liberal Democratic Party has been the longest ruling party of Japan in power since 1955. As the LDP and Japan now look to find a new prime minister, the frontrunners include former defense minister and a vocal critic of the current political climate, Shigeru Ishiba; Taro Kono, the current digital transformation minister who narrowly lost to Kishida in 2021; and Toshimitsu Motegi, a long-time supporter of Kishida and LDP's general secretary. Even as the Japanese leadership scrambles through this domestic political instability, India, United States and China have their eyes closely on what happens next. A close ally of India and US, Japan's change of guard amid the rising Chinese threat in the South China Sea and the Asian continent is a cause of concern. India's shared interest with Japan of an inclusive and secure Indo-Pacific now faces the dilemma of who takes the reins from Prime Minister Fumio Kishida and how Japan's next premier navigates through troubled waters, literally and metaphorically. This week, the world woke up to another health scare. The World Health Organization declared monkeypox as a public health emergency. This is the second time the viral infection has been designated as an emergency. Several countries in Africa, particularly Congo, have been affected. In Asia, Pakistan has reported cases as well. Since 2022, at least 99,176 cases and 208 deaths due to monkeypox have been reported from 160 countries as per WHO data. Monkeypox, remember, is a self-limiting viral infection caused by an orthopox virus and causes fever, enlarged lymph nodes, and a painful rash that forms blisters and then crusts over. Though self-limiting, it can lead to death, especially among children and those with weak immune systems. What seems to be worrisome is the spread of a newly sexually transmissible strain of this virus. All right, it's time to wrap Global Mirror up, but before we wrap up, we are leaving you with the visual of yet another milestone by the Indian Space Research Organization. India's space agency ISRO lifted off the final developmental flight of its small satellite launch vehicle, or the SSLV. The liftoff from the Satish Dhawan Space Center in Sriharikota represents the culmination of SSLV's testing phase. The rocket carried 175.5 kilogram Earth observation satellite that features 3 payloads. EOS-8 is designed to capture high-resolution images for surveillance, disaster monitoring and environmental assessment. This mission success marks the SSLV's transition to operational status, enhancing ISRO's capability to deploy small satellites for both domestic and commercial purposes through New Space India Limited. Take a look at those visuals. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Today, this is the third development flight of SSLV, and with this, the approved launches of the development for the SSLV is completed. And if every objective of the mission is met, we call it development cycle is completed, and it will get into operational regime. So that's what the significance of it. So that particular funding for development program is something that is important. And now the production will happen based on market demand. So the funding has to happen through either industry or NSIL. And that will produce as many numbers required for the commercial exploitation. So that is the significance of it. And with this, certain configuration of the vehicle is frozen, and we will continue to produce in numbers.